Okay. Yeah. So let's go to the course outline. Uh, this is post-independence Ghana to 1992. Um, the course is loaded, but I think we'll make it very simple. Um, it's our own country, Ghana, and so it's very simple course that I think many students get A's and B classes because it is about our own Ghana. And the things are familiar. Everybody should kindly, with all due respect, mute. Yeah, so it's very simple, and it's about our own country, Ghana. Some of the things that we are about to look at or discuss, we are familiar with them. We have heard from our parents, our grandparents. Some of them we witnessed ourselves. So I think it's very simple. Let's look at the course description. So now this course examines the historical development of modern Ghana from independence in March 1957 up to 1992. You see, Ghanaians and the nationalists made known that they wanted their destiny in their own hands. Please, I'm not all that well, so you see the way I talk, I'm managing. So you pardon me, my voice. Yeah, because of the thunder, so I'm managing. Otherwise, I should have cancelled the class, but I want to teach a bit. Yeah. So, as I said, yeah, they made noise for them to have independence so that they could run their own country, they could rule their own country. And we heard what some of them said that even self-government so they prefer self-government in danger to even servitude in tranquility. That meant that even if it's self-government and it is yeah risky, they like it than to be and to be under someone and be enjoying. No, they don't like that. So they fought. And so in short, in March 1957, they had their independence. So we want to look at when the country came under the hands of the nationalists, our own Ghanaian, what did they do? And then we look at how things are unfolding now. So it highlights the political, economic, and social policies and programs of the various administrations of Ghana. So those who claim the regimes, what did they do in the area of politics, in the area of economics, and of course, other social interventions. Now, the course also evaluates the successes and failures of the governments in their efforts to consolidate the country's political independence and sovereignty. Now, what attempt did they make to consolidate the independence that we gained and to achieve socioeconomic decolonization? Now, we were we had independence in the area of social and economic. Were we really independent? Is also another question that maybe we shall interrogate in the course of of our lecture. And what attempt did they make towards nation building? We need to look at that. So the course we look at the various regimes in Ghana. We also assess the progress Ghana made and examine the internal and external challenges that confronted the country in this effort towards rebuilding Ghana after independence. So we shall draw, so it enables students to draw a balance sheet of Ghana's post-independent political, economic, and social achievements up to 1992. Look at the PNDC. So the course equips you with an understanding of Ghana's political, so present political, economic, and social position, and provide you with a perspective, of course. Now let's look at the course objectives. Why are we doing this course? And I think even the course description shed light on some of these issues, but on specifically, we can say that we expect that we should be able to discuss the various governance systems Ghana experimented and their various political, economic, and social policies and programs up to 1992. And again, you have to reappraise them, look at their successes and failures, if possible, so that you could know what happened in each region. It's how it's much loaded. It's much loaded, so but we will try our best to give you the overview. You need to know this up to 1992. and the time for this course is very short, but we'll do our best. It's not, yeah. We'll be speaking to some of the things so that we become familiar. And as I said, this is an area that is not difficult, so no problem. Now, and topic one, we look at Nkrumah and the CPP. That is 1957 to 1966 when Nkrumah was overthrown. Um, so we look at what Nkrumah under his watch as the first president of of Ghana. What did what did he do during his administration? Then topic two, we look at the National Liberation Council. That's the NLM that saw the overthrow of Nkrumah. So from 1966 to 69. Then topic three, we look at Buzia and his party, the PP. So that is 1969 to 72. Then the National Redemption Council and the Supreme Military Council, 72 to 79. Then you look at the Armed Forces Revolutionary Council, 79. Then I return to Le Mans regime, that's the People's National Party, PNP. There's a topographical error here. PNP, People's National Party. You look at the People's National Party, PNP, the 79 to 81. Then you look at final ones coming back again to take over from Iran. That is the Provincial National Defense Council, 81 to 1992. And assessment as usual, you write quizzes, and the quizzes that you normally write, yeah, the quizzes that you write, you are given a time. Quiz one, I think always you sit in. For quiz two, I think that you would sometimes do it online, and then the end of semester you also write the system mass. And so continuous assessment will be quiz one and quiz two together. That's code we put them together to form 40% of the task. Then end of semester will be system mass, which you write. It will be straight into such two sessions, A and B. A will be like the quiz, and which is 20 marks, and session B will be essay questions. That is, you answer two questions out of six, of which I will give you the tutorial questions for you to prepare for the essays. There are some selected reading references or bibliography where that will help you. Now, one is the Japan Gene, the origins, implementation, effects of Ghana's 1969 Aliens Compliance Order, which was his answer thesis on published do. Then Afrifa, the Ghanaian coup, which is so good. Then Abudeka Francis was a professor at the Department of History, UCC, and he was also the one who wrote the history of the University of Ghana. He wrote this one, Ghana in the 20th century, Professor Abudeka. Then you have Professor Monime, also a full emeritus professor at the Department of History, UCC. He wrote Coming of Age in the second half of the 20th century, the case of Ghana. And he also wrote Ghana, a concise history from pre-colonial times to the 20th century. And Dennis Austin has a fantastic work on politics in Ghana, 1946 to 1960, which he published in Oxford University Press. And you have Ken Awuno, Ghana Political History. A. Boahin has also written Ghana Evolution and Change in the 19th and 20th centuries. I know by some of you are familiar with this work. Then we have The Ghanaian's Fence, also written by Boahin, reflections on the contemporary history of Ghana. Then F.K. Boa has a history of Ghana, published in Macmillan, London. Then at the West, we have Zobo's work. Zobo's work on Ghana in Search of Development. Dan Gokin has the history of Ghana, Greenwood Press, London. Then other works. So, for example, Jima Buwadi Losa Ghana and the PNDC rule. Howard Angela, when the people decide the study of the independent movement in Ghana, and many of such works that are very important. That some of them are available internet, almost all of them. That you can go there, download them, Yeah, yeah. Howard asked, for example, they are all available. Um, that you need to look at them. Okwe's Michael Okwe, Politics in Ghana, 1972 to 79. Very good work also there. You can have a look at that. And so, Zibu, the struggle for popular power, okay, and other things. Now, let's look at the first one, and that Ghana and Nkrumah. After I said I will be interested, we'll walk you through some of the things that they did when they assumed power. Did we benefit from what they did or not? Now, uh, so after attainment of independence, as I've already said, so it was through Kwame Nkrumah and his CPP. I'll be speaking to my lecture notes. So, and after that, I'll forward them, put them on for you as your lecture slide one. Uh, I will be speaking to my lecture notes. Okay. So what I mean here is that, as I've already reiterated, Ghana had its independence, yeah, in 1957, and it was Nkrumah and his CPP that led the country to independence. You are aware when Nkrumah broke away from the UGCC to form the CPP, which was Nkrumah associated himself with the ordinary people. So the ordinary people, the masses, bought into Nkrumah's philosophies and Nkrumah's ideas. So, of course, that did a trick for Nkrumah and so on and so forth. Okay. Um, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you
Yes, we can hear you, dog.
loud and clear. We are hearing
Yeah, but I think the number is also not encouraging. So if you put on the page, because we'll not come back to the thing that we are doing again, I beg you. So put it on the page. I will beg. So who is the course rep? Do you have the course rep with us, or any volunteer? Anybody can put it there that they should join. Yeah. So let's move on. As I was saying, yeah. So now from 1957 up to the time that Nkrumah was overthrown, and let me say that if Nkrumah was not overthrown, maybe Ghana would not be like as it is today. Because Nkrumah had a vision, even though he was over ambitious and wanted other African countries to be united under him, under his watch, so that he wanted to create like today we have United States of America. So Nkrumah saw that no, if we also come together as one Africa, and the countries will be states, so that the states and power would rotate. The central power will rotate from one state to the other. It will be better. So this vision of Nkrumah, if other African countries had supported it, and Nkrumah was heading towards that, and that was what alarmed the Europeans and the US. So they felt that no, if Nkrumah was not, something was not done to Nkrumah, and this vision becomes reality, then Africa would be on their own. And you know that this power they depend on Africa for everything. And so Nkrumah's overthrow was planned. Anyway, yeah, so Nkrumah was at the helm of affairs. Now, this session, we want to look at appreciate Nkrumah's rule from our administration from 1957 to the time that he was overthrown in 1966. So we want to look at some of the things that he did in the area of politics, economics, and social. So we'll start from social. Now, what were the things that Nkrumah did? Because he set out to rebuild the nation after independence. There were lots of developments in the social arena I was seeing between the time, and I want to let you know. Now, let's look at education first, which is enlightenment. Now, without education, don't forget that even when we were about to have independence, Nkrumah fast tracked the training when he became leader of government, business, and prime minister in 1951, 1952, respectively. He saw that with independence, or independence was going to be swift, and therefore the people needed to be trained. So they needed to be what quickly, the training or education should be what expedited, because with the independence, all the expatriate administration would exit the country. And so if we don't have people who are well educated to run the various positions, it will be very difficult for the country. And so Nkrumah set out to accelerate or fast track education, hence the introduction of the Accelerated Development Plan. So they look at the name, accelerated development plan of education. Let us fast track, let's accelerate it. Now, this plan sought to make education accessible to all Ghanaians. Now, the ADPE was established to introduce an obligatory free tuition, basic education, so that everybody will, so funds or money will not become obstacle. So, there will be access to education. So again, so to issue free textbooks to students in the basic schools and so on and so forth, so that everybody could have access. Now, again, schools were to be established to ensure the accurate execution of the ADPE. Now, the GET, the GET, that the Ghana Trust Education Trust, was set up in 1958, and by which a number of secondary schools, teacher training colleges, and higher education institutions were created. Now, these schools were built to ensure the smooth running of the ADPE, since it led to the skyrocketing of a number of students enrolling in basic schools. Now that, yeah, now that as education had been made free, tuition free, so people went in their numbers, and so there was. So after school, where would they go? This team, this group, this large numbers, they had to enter the secondary schools and training colleges and other higher institutions. So they had to make, so that GET was set up in 58. Now, so this was realized in the fact that by the year 1959, the number of senior secondary schools in the country increased from, look, 3,571 to 3,713 within short time, while the number of junior secondary schools increased from 1,311 to 1,394. Examples of schools that were established include the Ghana National College in Cape Coast. So GET also ensured the establishment of secondary schools like in Francis Mine Secondary School, Techiman Secondary School for a Penny, and Secondary School at Bonnie, and so on and so forth. Now, in the area of teacher education, attempts were made to ensure quality education. So Nkrumah sought to establish teacher training colleges, and so some of them were Bilkum Training College, Fosu Training College, NJ, among others. Which then in the area of university education, Nkrumah established universities. We had that one. First of all, and there was a rule. Nkrumah played a vital role in the transformation of University College of the Gold Coast, established in 1949. It was under the University of London, so it was the University of London that awarded its degrees and all that. So there was the need, and I have argued in a paper that are written with one full professor that even though we had independence, our universities were still under colonial rule. It was not until 1962 that these universities were liberated from colonialism. And so, University of Ghana and Commercial College of Technology had their what they call autonomous in 1962 when became fully fledged university, University of Ghana. So you have University of Ghana set up in 1948, and the Commercial College of Science and Technology established in 1952 became so Nkrumah established the University of Cape Coast too in 1962 to train teachers for secondary schools, technical institutions, and so on and so forth. Scholarships were also awarded to students to study. So especially, the Ghana, the CP government together with the Cocoa Marketing Board awarded Ghanaian students scholarships. So Ghanaian students were given scholarships, and scholarship to study in Ghanaian universities and universities outside Ghana, especially in Europe. The courses that were not available, and some of the courses like medicine, law, engineering, among others. Now, that was also done so that we could get some of these experts. Then there was the need to ensure that Africanization of Ghana's education, so there was the need to Africanize. And don't forget that the country had been in the hands of the Europeans for a long time, and they had Europeanized the system of education. Therefore, there was the need for African education to be, for the education in the country to be Africanized. In such a situation, the government established the Department of African Studies. Now, so you had so the government established a department which was under the auspices of the Ministry of Education, And its role was to advance the rich cultural heritage of Africans in general and Ghanaians in particular. And so, of course, Nkrumah saw to the establishment of the Institute of African Studies at the University of Ghana, Eugene, and the establishment of the Culture Center at Kumasi to ensure the total Africanization of Ghana's educational system. Adult education was also promulgated in areas, so we have some of them there. So the adult had to be taught so that they could also be able to read and write and know things. Now, the primary aim of the People's Education Association (PEA) was to encourage adult education. Adults who enrolled in this program were taught how to read and write, and these adult students were also educated in other disciplines as well. Now, not only education, but health also saw a facelift. There were construction of hospitals and then coma. So hospitals, clinics, and polyclinics. So you have some of them here. Now, the CPP built new hospitals. We can mention if you Quantum Hospital in second D. That one in second D, Takrade, and Okonfor Noche Teaching Hospital in in Kumasi. And this way to ease pressure and congestion at these major hospitals. So several clinics were also set up across the country. Now there was the Ghana Medical School was also founded, and this was to ensure that at least um, doctors could be trained locally. Doctors could be trained locally. So the Ghana Medical School was set up. Scholarships, grant of scholarship to students to read medicine. Yeah, so that we could get more medical doctors who will be operating in the country. Then they also establishing of nursing and midwifery training schools were also underway. And so since nurses and midwives are important in the delivery of healthcare, Nkrumah established nursing and midwifery training institutions to train, and there were many to train nurses and midwives who know their work way to assess the doctors. Now again, as the housing, there was improvement in housing and rural services. So these were intended to ensure inefficiencies, the challenge, to in their bid to challenge the insufficiencies of housing in the country. The CVP and its government established the Ministry of Housing, the State Housing Corporation, and Tama Development Corporation, and their major task was to construct houses for workers in the township of Tama. And Tama was an industrial city, so of course, individuals who could afford to buy these houses had the right to do so. Okay, and also rules were expanded through the rural feeder road scheme that was set up. Now, many roads were constructed to link villages to commercial centers, and its major role was to fast track or facilitate trade inter-trade among inter and intra-trade among the people. Okay, so now it must be said that many of these rural developments were done through communal labor, which was encouraged by the government. Having seen what took place in the area of social, let's move on to the economics. And here, before independence, the economy of Ghana, and don't forget that economy is very important. So you to have your own personal economies, and that is what you get throughout the month. Let's take a month as for your planning. All the money that passes or that passes through your hands in the within the month is what you can say that these are so you plan. You have, let's say you are married. If you are married and with children, then of course the whether you do how much are you paid and so how do you manage your economy so that you'll be able to eat throughout the day. You can have say 3 meals a day, and you'll be able to do all the other things. Your children who go to school, you pay their school fees, the money that they need for school, their books, and you the thing, and your wife. So if you're able to plan well, so that at least every month the month you're able to live within what you have, and then get even some surplus that you could maybe use venture into another investment or whatever. So you see that you are able to live well, good. But if by 15th of the month and nothing is there, even housekeeping money is not available, that's that your economy is in danger. Okay, that is good. Now, so economy is always very important, and that is why even nowadays we make reference to economic issues, and sometimes we see some of the heads of states moving to the IMF for support and all that. So before independence, the economy of Ghana was in the hands of the colonial masters, and we know that Britain was the country that colonized us. Now, on the attainment of independence on 6 March 1967, Nkrumah sought to move away from the economic policies of the colonial masters. Now we are independent, so of course we set out. And this meant that Ghanaians now had the opportunity to run their own affairs and to manage their economy the way they wish. Let's see the thing that Nkrumah did. One, he introduced 7-year development plan, and this plan was anchored to speed up the rate of growth of the national economy so that Ghana will be like, Nkrumah wanted Ghana to be like a paradise, like where people would live a very good life. And his idea of so to enable the country embark on upon social transformation of the economy through the rapid development of state and cooperative sectors. And so the plan aimed to completely eradicating the colonial structure of the Ghanaian economy and to ensure a new structure of production. So, to this end, divided the economy into 5 sectors: the state, private, foreign, private, joint state, and private, the cooperative and small scale Ghanaian private sectors. So, that is the plan, 7 year. There also issue of stimulated foreign investors. Now, as an economist himself, Nkrumah motivated foreign investors to invest in the country's economy. So, now, even though Kwame Nkrumah was a socialist, he encouraged private entrepreneurs to participate in the development of Ghana's economy. And so the CPP stimulated foreign investors by introducing policies such as tax holidays, reduced custom levies, etc., all in the name of making Ghana's economy very attractive. Now, in the area of agriculture, he diversified agriculture, and so the economy of Ghana for a long time depended on cocoa. So what did they do? And so, due to the dangers associated with overdependence on a single cash crop, Nkrumah set out to diversify the agriculture sector. So he encouraged farmers to venture into the growing of other crops, and even venture into livestock. Really, there was also the establishment of agriculture farms to train farmers. So diversifying agriculture, the government sought to train agriculture staff by giving them practical and professional training, and so on and so forth. Now, there was also the establishment of credit facilities to access, now where they could access money from banks and so on and so forth. It also promoted industrialization, which is very important here. Industrialization. So, uh, after measures were put in place to ensure the diversification of the economy, then the CPP went ahead to put in place measures that ensured industrialization of the country. So you see that we had, and this was intended to, yeah, produce finished goods. So we wanted to have our own finished goods locally. Now, so that we could put them in the markets. This policy of industrialization led to the construction of the VACU, that is the Water Aluminium Company at VACU, and Akoso Motors Corporation. So Nkrumah went, and then also the establishment of Akosomo hydroelectric dam. And so the dam that was constructed so that we could get constant supply of power so that our industry could move on well. So Dr. Nkrumah took the opportunity of an official visit to the US in July 1958 to secure funds for the construction of Akosomo Dam. So it started in 1959 and completed in 1965 and finally commissioned in 1966. So this dam was to speed up the process of industrialization in Ghana. Then the establishment of the shipping line, it was also underway. So the need for the provision of seagoing vessels, and therefore there was the need for the establishment of the Black Star Line. Now, the Black Star Line was a complete state-owned maritime corporate entity, and it sought to explore extensive trading activity within the West African South region and subsequently to the entire world. So Ghana had not less than four top 16,000 vessels. So that is tons. And so these vessels were giving Ghanaians identities because they all bore Ghanaian names like Keita, Thanos, Sicily, and so on, so Volta, and so on and so forth. Now, after this, let's look at some of the things that Nkrumah did in the area of politics. These were some of the things that also saw his downfall. His downfall. So
Sir, good
Nkrumah
morning.
embarked. Yeah, morning. Yeah,
Uh,
morning. How are you?
with the education, fine, thank you, sir. With the education side,
Mhm.
you are mentioning schools, but I didn't hear you mention about agri colleges. Uh,
Mentioning.
Agri
Hello.
colleges, whether it
Agri
was it under Nkrumah? Yes, when they were established.
agri colleges.
Yes, please.
Yeah, which one are you talking? Which one are you specifically? Which one do you make one reference to?
Yes, you are
Yeah,
saying
so
he
that
established so many schools.
yeah, so I just wanted I was touching on his the need to rebuild the nation Ghana, and he saw that to rebuild Ghana there was the need for him to fast track education system. Don't forget that at this time the the expatriate, in other words, the Europeans officials were going to exit the country at independent, because when you get independent, the foreign officials will all leave the country and for Ghanaians to take over the various positions. And this is a situation whereby the people were illiterate because schools were not available to train them. Only few people who were influential, who were rich, were able to send their children overseas for further education or higher education. And the schools available were those provided by the Christian missions, and they were not many. So don't forget that. And so in Nkrumah, they need to what to set up many schools, even to make the basic education, that is children between the ages of 5 and 13 free, tuition free, so that people will go to school. And with that, there was also the need to set up many, because now these people, when they complete elementary school, they will go to secondary school. So therefore, there was a need for him to also expand secondary education by establishing many of them, and that will also go with what colleges of education, or training colleges, and even universities. And so he did that so that we could get many illiterate people who could be able to help in the various positions, yeah, in the country, and that was done. So, in that is in the area of what social. But when you go to agriculture, that's what I'm talking about. I've already walked you through some of the things that he did in the area of agriculture, and that is economic. So you look at some of the things that he did to fast track, and those schools that would be set up are all there. So you um, that is what Nkrumah did
So,
in the area of social. To
so
yeah,
in the area of agri, did he establish the agri schools, or it was after him they were established? That's just what I want to get.
yeah. So in the area of agric, you that I've walked you through the things that he did. So in the course of time, some institutions will be set up to train people in areas. So after
Okay.
in the early days after independence, now credit facilities for people. Later, they need to train the farmers in the area so that they will become experts. If that is the situation, then we see that will
Yes.
be agric schools will be set up in the course of time. Okay, so
Okay.
in the area of politics, this thing that he did, yeah, he did a lot, and some of the things that he did in the area of politics or in his political development also led to his fall or overthrow. And let us look at them briefly. Now, yeah, so CPP government or Nkrumah faced some major challenges, and that made him unpopular. So we can just look at some of them. Now, even though Nkrumah's party had won majority seats across the country, it did not win majority seats in Asante and the northern regions. No, they didn't do that. Now, the lack of massive support among the Akan, so the Akan did not support Nkrumah, later led to the rise of an Akan nationalist group. So we saw the National Liberation Movement, and It was through the activities of national. I don't know whether you have done colonial Ghana. Yeah, those you did colonial Ghana. So if you have done it, then you saw how the National Liberation Movement, for example, delayed Ghana's independence. Otherwise, Ghana would have had its independence before 1957, even 1954 or 56, 55, we would have had independence. But the formation of NLM in 1954 delayed Ghana's independence. Okay. So Nkrumah had opposition from there. There was also what was known as the Ewa Unification event, which also caused the embittered Rotarians to stay away from the independence celebration. Now, the Ghana Shifra McQuay, that the Ghana Stephens Association, which also advocated Ghana interests, did not feel well with Nkrumah regime. That will tell you this story. Will even give you an idea about the opposition that Nkrumah would face. Now, this political development increased the level of tensions in some parts of Ghana. So, in his bid to suppress this opposition from the people, Nkrumah and his government eventually or finally, the thing they did made Ghana a one-party state through a series of laws they passed. So they passed a series of laws that made Ghana a one-party state. Yeah. Now let's look at some of these laws. So one was the Deportation Acts. Now this act was passed to eliminate aliens, that is foreigners, who were supporting the opposition party against Nkrumah. So okay. So for example, we have some Syrians and Lebanese businessmen who were here. They were expelled. In other words, they were banned from the country. And again, as some Nigerian businessmen in Kumasi. So Ahmed Baba and Alhaji Lalemi were also expelled. And so that's where those who suffered through that. There was also the Avoidance Discrimination Act, and this act removed all the smaller parties that were formed along ethnic and regional lines. And so this act, with this act, Nkrumah and CPP government ensured that political parties were national in character. So that's so we had about so the CPP political parties were to be formed at the national level and not at the regional and ethnic level. So this act, CPP government was able to make all opposition parties illegal. The only party that became legal was the CPP, and so the smaller parties came together under Buzia. Buzia, that's okay. Under the K. Buzia of the National Liberation Movement. And so SD Dombo MPP, Northern People's Party. So they came, they merged so that they could survive. There was also the Preventive Detention Act of July 1958, and this act was a pernicious piece of legislation, and it conferred on incorporated Nkrumah an unfettered power. Yeah, an unfettered power on Nkrumah as the Prime Minister and later President of Ghana to order, so the President could order the arrest and imprisonment of any citizen without trial. So if you were suspected to have been involved in an act that was detrimental to the security of the state, then the President could cause your arrest without being tried. You'll be put in jail for a period of 5 years. Now, the power was extremely and arbitrarily invoked by Nkrumah to imprison his political opponents. So people were muzzled, they could not talk. Now, casualties of the PDA included JB Dankwa and Obichibe Lamte. JB Dankwa, who even paid plane ticket of Nkrumah to be brought to become the leader of to become the secretary of the UNCC, so that he was among the casualties of Nkrumah's PDA. So in this world, things are very strange. Apollo also went through that. Statistically, in 1958, almost all the 39 detainees were members of the either Gasifumukwe or the United Party. By November 1959, 9 out of the 12 detainees were all prominent members of the UP or of either Asante or Volta. Now, so this period in the political history of Ghana witnessed a lot of chaos, and this led to a couple of attempts on Nkrumah's life. For example, yeah, Nkrumah. So in 1962, there was an attempt to assassinate Kwame Nkrumah by a concealed bomb in buckets of flowers that was supposed to be presented to the president when he was returning from a state visit to Kolongugu. So Kwame Nkrumah was able to escape this explosion, but it is believed that this explosion was what caused the skin cancer of Kwame Nkrumah, from which later he died. Another attempt was when a police officer, Ametewe, shot Nkrumah at the first house but failed. His bodyguard would push Nkrumah and received the bullets, and he died instantly. Now, these were all made in Nkrumah. And so, the effects of all these attempts in Nkrumah, if you were in Nkrumah, what would you do? So, now, the policies employed by Nkrumah in his bid to seal his place in the leadership role of the country led to a period of peace and order. Now, members of Nkrumah's government who were not able to enter Kumasi previously could now enter, and some of the things that he did. The CPP government also had the feeling that their position was secured because the leading opposition in the country, the UP, was not in existence by 1960. Most of the major players in the opposition were either incapacitated or brainwashed to switch sides. Out of the 32 opposition members of parliament, three were detained. Dr. K. Buzia was in exile, and 12 had switched to sides to the CPP. Thus, there were only 16 members left in the opposition half of the parliament. Yeah, half of parliament at the time. Now, the PDA ushered in the feeling of fear and insecurity in all parts of the country. Yeah, now let's look at the 1960 Republican Constitution. So, the 1960 Constitution of Ghana was an amendment of the 1957 one, and 1957 Constitution was independent constitution. Some key features of the Constitution included popularly elected executive president. The designation of governor general was phased out. So the prime minister was made the head of government under the title president. The constitution reinforced the position of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah as the executive president of Ghana. The 1960 constitution also provided for a unicameral legislature made up of 104 members presided over by the Speaker of Parliament. The constitution also provide for a judiciary made up of superior and inferior courts, the Supreme Courts, High Courts, Circuit Courts, etc. Now, with their main function as settlers of disputes. So, under the Constitution, the president could appoint and dismiss the Chief Justice. The Constitution also provided for a multi-party system, and so this provision remained until 1964, when the president was able to secure constitutional amendment, making Ghana a one-party state. It created a public service commission for the recruitment, promotion, and discipline of members of the public service. Clause 51 conferred on the president the power to appoint, transfer, dismiss, and exercise disciplinary control over members in the public service. Now, let's go at Nkrumah's foreign relations. So Ghana's independence was meaningless unless it is linked to the total liberation of the African continent. And so Kwame Nkrumah played an important role in foreign affairs, which is, as I said, viewed to create a united Africa. Now, the total liberation of African continent will be only possible through the creation of a united one. That's what Nkrumah. And so, Nkrumah's goal for Africa, and so he did everything possible to achieve it, but could not succeed. Okay, so now there was what we refer to as positive neutralism. Nkrumah employed positive neutralism in Ghana's foreign affairs, and this meant that Ghana was not to align herself to any of the world blocs, whether it was Western Bloc, under the USA, and Eastern Bloc under the Soviet Union. No, it was not aligned. Now, Nkrumah stood for international reconciliation and peace, and did not want Ghana to take sides with any of the blocs. By positive neutrality, Nkrumah meant that African countries should not sit idle while the world bloc destroyed world peace, and so they should accept ACE and go into agreements with any of the blocs so far as the conditions attached are not detrimental to their country's economies. Now let's get step towards African unity. Nkrumah made moves to ensure that Africa was united. So now there was the establishment of step towards establishment of United Africa. It started in 1958 when Nkrumah organized the Conference of Independent African States between April 15th and 20 and 20, 15th and 22 or 22nd, 15th and 22nd, 1958. And this conference was held in Accra, attended by leaders of independent countries. So, Ghana, Libya, Liberia, Morocco, Egypt, and Ethiopia. Now, the Accra conference adopted a declaration of a number of political resolutions on peace and security, the end of colonialism, the Algerian question, a standing conference body, and the coordination of policies of the member countries. So the All African People's Conference was also held in December 58 after the Conference of Independent African States. Okay. Now, the conference was attended by all independent and non-independent African states, liberation movements, and public organizations. Now, this conference met to chart a way forward on how, they met to chart a way for how to achieve continental freedom. And so the agenda of the conference entailed anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism, anti-racialism, African unity, and non-alignment. Now, there was financial assistance that Ghana offered to Guinea. So Nkrumah in 19 went to the aid of Guinea by giving Guinea a loan of 10 million pounds. So they were to use this to assist the support the newly independent country. And apart from that, they also assisted. So, since their colonial master France left them nothing, France left Guinea with no form of assistance and also withdrew all equipment because Secretary, the Guinean president, refused to join French community proposed by the French government. Now, there was also the formation of Guinea Union. And so Ghana Guinea Union was formed on the 23rd November 1958. This union was to serve as an example to all African countries to encourage the formation of African Union. Now, this union between Ghana and Guinea was formed after the French granted Guinea independence in 1958, and so forth. So Ghana later we had Mali joined and became Ghana, Guinea, Mali, and so forth. There was also training of African freedom fighters, those who were still not had independence, so that they could assist in the liberation of their countries from colonial rule. And so Nkrumah, together with Padmore, was his advisor. They set up special Pan-African institutions, the Bureau of African Affairs, be the African Affairs Center, AAC, and the Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute, and that is to train people. Now, hundreds of African activists, freedom fighters, and political refugees were hosted here, and they were trained and financed through these institutions. And they were to return to their home countries and liberate their respective countries from colonial rule. Okay. Now, there was also Nkrumah's participation in African conferences as well. So Ghana participated in the second All African Conference, People's Conference, organized in Tunis in 1960, and then also took part in the third conference, which was held on March 25 to 31. This is 1961 in Cairo, Egypt, and all other conferences. And especially we have that on positive neutrality. So you see the Ghana's role. No wonder Ghana played a crucial role in the formation of OAU. So the OAU was formed in May 1960 out of a compromise because while leaders like Nkrumah and Sekou who belonged to the Casablanca bloc, opted for political union as the most effective instrument in the fight against neocolonialism. The others, yeah, the others argued that a union was premature at the time, and so on. So to settle this difference, the two groups, at a conference of all heads of states held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, came to a compromise, which led to the birth of the OAU. So the Casablanca group, which was in support of the political union, was known to be more radical as compared to the Monrovia group. So let's see those in the Casablanca group. They were Algeria, Egypt, Ghana, Guinea, Libya, Mali, and Morocco. And the Moravian group were also Liberia, Senegal, Nigeria, and Cameroon. Now, this Nkrumah did all this in the area of social, economic, political, and foreign affairs. In spite of all this, the CPP government fell. Nkrumah was overthrown. What were the factors? I'm not going to repeat some of the things I've already said. Now, efforts to cripple the opposition parties have mentioned the intervention, the things that the Mr. Nkrumah introduced, the Deportation Act, the Avoidance Discrimination Act, the Preventive Act. All these acts made Ghanaians very worried due to the rising levels of political intolerance and injustice. No wonder Nkrumah was overthrown. Then deliberate manipulation of the constitution by Nkrumah, which I said that he manipulated the 1960 constitution so that in 1964 the CPP government became the only recognized party in the country. All other parties were proscribed. And then there were also resentments in the army due to neglect by the government. So after the two failed attempts on Nkrumah's life, Nkrumah became obsessed with his personal security. He was worried. He established a well and heavy armed security service and presidential guard recruited from abroad under his control. Now, this led to resentment by the ill-equipped Ghanaian army policy and so on and so forth. Now, there was also developments within the CPP itself, widespread dissatisfaction among some members. They felt that Nkrumah assumed too much power in the party, and the leaders of the party became more instruments to champion the cause of party, but it seems Nkrumah was also only the one. There was also high rate of corruption within the CPP, and Nkrumah could not do much. There was an increase in corruption among the civil officials. Most of the civil officials attained wealth and live in extravagance and at the expense of the ordinary Ghanaian. Now, you can look at example here. Kobodu say even bought a golden bed costing 3,000 pounds from lending for his wife. At a time, majority of Ghanaians could not afford 3 square meals. So now there also dissatisfaction with Nkrumah's foreign policies. People felt like, why? So yeah, we've not done much, and we are giving Ghana's money to Guinea, Mali, and so on and so forth. There also the young pioneers were also highly indisciplined. Now, yeah, the young pioneers were brainwashed to believe that Nkrumah had a supernatural character. So these young pioneers became highly indisciplined that they could report their own parents to the state security for arrest and so. Now, in the area of economics, there were economic hardship in the country that we need to talk about, and that manifested itself. And yeah, so from 60 to 65, where cocoa price dropped and huge spending on development policies began. And so this affected many people. Condition was very there. Was also unemployment. Unemployment was so high, people could not get work to do. Food prices skyrocketed up over 25%, and from 1957 levels and up to a phenomenal 66% in 1965. Finally, eventually there were massive food and essential shortages, if affecting every area, sector, and so on and so forth. Economic growth, which had ranged from 9% The 3% per annum dropped to 2 to 3. That will tell how serious in this issue was. So Nkrumah's response was a rigid socialist budget, which imposed weak Marxist concepts of economic revival on the population, primarily through harsh and unrealistic taxation. Financial mismanagement, economic chaos increased, and the country was eventually at the brink of national bankruptcy and international disgrace. Ghanaians were unhappy with the economic policies of Nkrumah and the economic climate in the country. As a matter of fact, the people wanted a change of government, and this was what manifested itself in the 1966 coup. So I think I'll end my class here. Yeah, so that is the end of Nkrumah's regime and his administration up to his fall. And so the next we'll look at the National Liberation Council. The National Liberation Council that saw the overthrow of Nkrumah. What did they do? What measures did they put in place to salvage the Ghana's economy or to revive or revamp the Ghana's economy? And how and why did they return it to sovereign rule that brought in the administration of K.A. Buzia and so on and so forth? So questions. I'll pause for questions. One question from you before I end the class. Hello. Uh, can you
Hello,
hear
Doc.
me?
How would you?
Okay. So if anyone
Yeah,
has a
yeah.
question, you can. If anyone has a question, you can ask. When is our next lecture?
Uh,
Say the
Maybe next
timetable.
Sunday. Next
Uh,
Sunday.
no, but how many courses are you doing? I didn't know today. It's forest and coastal. Guys know them. Oh
Uh,
yeah,
Issues, problems, and issues in history.
I'm teaching you forest and coastal, protein dependent Ghana, and which one is it? Europe?
We are doing issues in history.
You said
Issues and problems in history.
Douglas. Can they speak? Okay, so when are you having that one?
To 4.
Okay, so I think during that time we shall meet. Let's end the class here. Okay. If there are no questions, then yes. Yeah, yeah, good. Mhm. You said, please, we can't hear you. So talk, reposition yourself and talk well so that we can hear you. Mhm. Go on. Hello. You are talking. It's some. Yeah, we started fine, but it's getting faint. Why are you not talking loudly that we can hear you? Mhm. from the articles and the books that I've read. From what? It points, yeah, from
I'm sorry.
some of
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Can someone hear him so that the person will say the question for me to get it and answer? So you still finish it so that if another person can hear you, uh, so that I can the person can say it because I can't hear you, please.
okay. It was about
Or,
it's about
or better still, you
the
can
one who
type it
paid.
too.
You
It
say
was
what?
about the one. I'm saying my question is the one is about the one who paid Nkrumah's ticket to come to the Gold Coast
Mm-hmm.
to take the position of the general secretary. So you made
Okay.
mention that it was David Dankwa who made the payment, who paid the ticket. And I want verification on that because um, from the books that are available and the fact that you know it was Power Grant. It was Power Grant rather who paid the ticket. So I want a verification on that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So Paragrand was the financier. He had the money. So but it was yeah, so the one who did the processes and the one who sent the money was Danka. It was not Paragrand himself. He was the one who brought the money. In fact, yeah, so that is what I know. It was he was not the one who went straight to pay, but it was he was their financial, he was so rich. And that's why he was even made no, he was the founder of the whole thing, the whole UNCC, and he was the one who was providing all the funds. But it was in fact Akwaje was the one who suggested that he knew Nkrumah. And it was Dankwa, yeah, Dankwa who managed to convince them for funds to be sent to Nkrumah to come. So that was done. Yeah. So that is what I mean here. Okay. Any other question?
Hold up.
Any other question?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I think next time that we get the thing clear, we'll ask Douglas to come out with this issue again. It's very significant so that we interrogate it. There are some arguments, some people say things, write things anyhow. So we give you the fact and so we look at it so that you get things clear. Yeah, we don't want any nebulous in the presentation, distortion of historical facts. So I think next time we'll look at the issue again. On that note, I think if anyone, if you have other question, you can ask. If not, then we will draw the curtain down here until we meet next time. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Okay. But we're meeting at 11:30 again. 11:50.
It's 11
Yes,
what?
11:50.
11:30,
Uh, 2:30.
11.
11:30.
Okay, I'll get back to you. So let's talk later. Okay. Bye.
Okay.
Okay, good.